Hey guys, first regardsman here, and so I'll be talking about all the brand new perk changes coming to Space Marine 2 patch 12.0 with the Techmarine update. Now, this update is not only giving us a brand new class with the Techmarine, but we're also getting some major perk changes to other classes, most notably the Assault that got a huge rework. So first up, I'm going to be talking about squad cohesion. This is by far the least important of all the changes. This is now a 15% faster ability recharge for your entire team, up from 10%. To be honest, this perk still kind of sucks, but the next perk we're going to be talking about is incredible, at least an incredible addition. This one is called Strong Strike. Hitting an enemy with the Jump Pack's dash attack ability restores its charge by 1. Cooldown is 10 seconds. Now, currently on the public test server, this perk is actually broken. It will function on not only your Jump Pack dash, but also just your dash attacks in general. So that is definitely unintentional. But even with that perk effect active, I think this one is going to be pretty damn good, especially for Wings of Flame builds, because basically you'll be able to use your Wings of Flame to deal damage on the Jump Pack dash trajectory, and then also get it back at the very end with this, and also be able to trigger things potentially like even commitment here. So really good there, where you could actually double up on your Jump Pack dash, because for example, you would use the commitment perk here to get a recharge of your Jump Pack dash. You'll fly towards an enemy with your free Jump Pack, and then you'll punch them in the face and get another Jump Pack back. So really fun for that, and a bunch of free damage for Wings of Flame. Now, you may be wondering, where the hell did Hammer of Wrath go? Well, that is the next change we're going to be talking about here with the Prestige perk tree. So we have finally gotten rid of the dog shit perk Commendation, and is now replaced with the perk Hammer of Wrath. After using your Jump Pack, you will take 30% less range damage, and you do not lose control of heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 15 seconds. This perk was already pretty damn good, and the fact that it's now tied to the Prestige perk list, this is probably just a meta pick. I think this one is definitely better in the perk scramble targeting now. I would probably take this one over Adrenaline Boost even, because now you have just a free no knockback perk and range damage reduction, which is pretty substantial, and I think it's pretty crazy they put this in the Prestige perk tree. That's a huge boon for this class, and I think that changes up his playstyle quite a bit. Now, I do hope this is a sign of things to come for Space Marine 2, that we will get more Prestige perk changes like this in the future, because right now, the game has a lot of undercooked Prestige perks, and like only a couple of the classes have a really interesting perk tree. Like Sniper's Prestige perk list is actually pretty interesting, and as far as the new Techmarine Prestige perks, they took a Revive perk from Assault, and now the Techmarine gets one instead. This one's called Revive Surge. When the Techmarine revives a team member, both gain 15% faster ability charge regeneration for 10 seconds. This perk is garbage. I don't know why they gave this to Techmarine. It will also probably get reworked just like the other one on the Assault class, because I assume that what Saber Interactive is doing is they're looking at the overall pick rates for these perks and then changing them based on that. So I assume that one won't survive very long. That's pretty much all there is for the Assault class changes, besides the Winged Fury perk also now working on every single option for the power stance on the Power Sword. That's a little bit like less of a change, more of a bug fix. But besides that, that's all the Assault has. Now, the next class we're going to be talking about here is the Tactical class. Now, Tactical cannot stop winning in Space Marine 2. The first change we got to him is with Balance Distribution. This one has been upped to a 15% damage increase for your primary weapon, and your secondary weapon gets a further 15% less damage. So kind of an upside, kind of more of a downside as well. Not the biggest buff ever, but the next perk we're going to be talking about is insane enough that I made a whole video for it, and that is Crack and Penetrator rounds. Now, on the public test server, this perk description is completely broken. It says bolt weapons penetrate one more enemy, non-head shoot damage increased by 1%. What this actually does is it buffs up all damage from non-head shots, so body shot damage on your bolter weapons, by 50%. Now, that is a pretty huge boon. Now, currently, this is also bugged on the public test server to affect every single weapon that does not do headshot damage. That includes your Plasma Incinerator, that includes your Melter Rifle, that includes your Pyre Blaster burn effect, and it will also stack onto your Auspex, which means right now, Crack and Penetrator rounds in the PTS is positively nuts. But in the main game for patch 12, I don't think it's going to survive like that. Like, I doubt the burn effect of the Pyre Blaster is going to be taken into account for that, and it's to be primarily used for things like the Bolt Carbine, Heavy Bolter, and the grenade portion of these. But even if it only affects the grenade launcher and your body shots on your bolter portion, because these are all the bolter weapons, which is what it's supposed to actually be targeting, I think that's going to be a huge buff, because grenades in Space Marine 2, especially for Siege mode, because the bolt rifle with the grenade launcher is already a top tier pick in siege mode because it just has a ridiculous amount of damage to output in an AoE, especially when you combine it with things like precise calibration and the concentrated fire auspex. That gives you a 195% damage buff to your auspex, and on top of that, you also have the prestige perk here, spare power, collecting an ammo box restores ability charge by 25%. So all of that taken into account, if you give a 50% bonus to the grenade portion of these weapons, that is pretty incredible all on its own. I really hope that this perk is not only going to work on the actual bolter rounds, because it might be the intention to have this only function on my Norris as like a horde clear option, which would be pretty neat. I mean, I think a lot of players would like that, things like the heavy bolt rifle, but as far as what I would like to see, we are getting a brand new heroic heavy bolt rifle with a grenade launcher. So having a grenade launcher buff perk on top of that would be pretty cool, and also be a nice little bonus to this brand new weapon. Now, the final class that got any perk changes in Space Marine 2's patch 12.0 update is the Sniper class, with the perk here, Efficient Readiness, that now lasts for 5 seconds after deactivation. With the perk effect being Camo Cloak increases your movement speed by 20%, and manually activating Camo Cloak automatically reloads your ranged weapons. Now, that is a kind of neat effect, I guess. If you want to go real fast, vroom vroom, you could definitely take this. Unfortunately, you are giving up either Purification, which is a god tier perk, or the perk down here, Renewal, which makes it so your Camo Cloak actually functions, because if you don't take Renewal, you are definitely taking the perk here, Squad Renewal, unless you hate yourself and you hate your Camo Cloak, because without one of these two perks, your Camo Cloak will just not come back remotely as fast. I feel like they're kind of like fundamental to this class in general, to the point I feel like at least one of these should be a passive, and maybe rework these perks at some point. But either way, for now, I think Efficient Readiness is kind of fun. It's just not that interesting, and definitely not that strong. Now, the next perk change here is a very minor one with Ambush. This one reads when your Camo Cloak deactivates, it startles and slows down nearby enemies for 10 seconds, and they will temporarily lose control or get knocked back. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Now, the only perk change to this is now it will force the stagger on all the enemies, which is a nice little change, because previously the stagger would just not trigger properly sometimes. But to be honest, this perk is still by far the weakest in this entire column, because we're in the same column as, guess what? A Lingering Concealment, which is one of the best sniper perks in the entire game, and Persistence, which is one of the other best perks in the entire game for the sniper class, which gives you a 20% health damage reduction and no knockback, and this one just makes it so you get more camos active, or I should say more invisibility time, which is just a way better effect than like staggering guys when your Camo Cloak deactivates. And overall, I think these sniper perks that they changed around this time are just kind of undercooked, which does kind of blow. And the final perk change they made, which is like a very minor one with Vantage Point, now you have an indicator when this is actually active, though this perk is okay. And that's pretty much all there is for the major perk changes in Space Marine 2 patch 12.0, at least so far. If you want to see an entire perk tree breakdown for the Techmarine class, because this is where 99% of the new perks in this patch are coming from, I did make a video about that. I'll put in the description below. But for now, that is everything we have for the other classes. I will be making a build around the Assault and Tactical to showcase some of these new perk options, though I'm pretty sure the Tacticals, Crack and Penetrator rounds will not be functioning with non-bolter weapons in the future, but for now, it is a pretty funny option to use on the PTS. But that is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about regarding the new perk changes in Space Marine 2 patch 12.0. Let me know what you guys think about these in the comments section below. Hey guys, first regards from here, I'll be talking about the brand new Techmarine class for Space Marine 2 patch 12.0 on the public test server. Now, we're going to be breaking down all of his weapons, his entire perk tree, and his class ability here. And I just want to say, the Techmarine is an incredibly fun class in this game. This guy feels like he has taken into account all the updates we've had for the past year and a half, and his gameplay is very fluid. I think he'll be very popular, and maybe a bit more difficult to play for some players. We'll get into that. And overall, he's in a pretty decent spot as far as fun is concerned. There are some issues with him, but I think a lot of those will be addressed by the time he officially releases. Now, as far as the weapons the Techmarine has available to him, number one, he has the Auto Bolt Rifle, the Standard Bolt Rifle, which gives you access to the Grenade Launcher and the Combi Melta, of course, the Heavy Bolt Rifle, which has a brand new access to the Heroic Heavy Bolt Rifle, doesn't actually have a name yet, that has an Underslung Grenade Launcher on top of the Oculus Bolt Carbine and the Plasma Incinerator. Now, his secondary options are the Bolt Pistol, which gives you the access to the Heroic Bolt Pistol, Heavy Bolt Pistol with Retribution's Request as well, the Plasma Pistol, Inferno Pistol, which got a buff to its gunstrike damage this patch, and the Neo Volkite Pistol, which also got a buff to its gunstrike damage this patch. So he has a lot of options for guns. And as far as melee weapons go, he also has a lot of options here. Number one, we have the combat knife, and he is the only class in Space Marine 2 that has access to not only the combat knife, but also the perk Overcharge, we'll get into later. And on top of that, you also have the power sword, power axe, and the brand new Omniscion axe. Now, I know a lot of people want to hear all about this. We'll break this down even more in a later video, but for now, I want to say I think this weapon is really fun, a very interesting moveset to say the least, and honestly pretty strong. I don't think it's like the strongest option he has, but it's definitely up there. I would take this weapon over the power sword currently, and as far as its heroic variant is concerned, it's one of the best options for it, and that's a pretty good thing to have for your heroic weapon, because heroic weapons are pretty damn popular in Space Marine 2 for good reason. Now, I'm going to go break down the perk tree here next. The Techmarine's class ability here is called the Servo Gun. Ability, unleash a powerful servo gun volley, and your starting perk is you can detect and activate Tarantula Sentry Guns, and they will attack nearby enemies until they run out of ammo or are destroyed. Now, Tarantula Sentry Guns will appear on map for operations. They are currently not in siege mode, but similar to Gene Seeds and the Guardian Relic pickups, they are in randomized preset locations, though I should mention they are far more plentiful on map than the Gene Seed and Guardian Relic spots. Like, you will find them in quite a few areas, and once you activate one, you will just be able to basically funnel a bunch of enemies to you and blow them apart. So pretty powerful option there. And as far as the servo gun goes, this is the signature weapon on your shoulder. You have 3 variants for this. The base version is the standard bolter version, which you just take by taking the explosive enfilade perk, which is pretty much mandatory to actually use it because the other 2 will change your gun. And you have the precision enhancement, which turns it into like a sniper option for long range shooting, and the plasma enhancement, which turns it into a plasma projectile AoE machine. So pretty unique options there. Currently in the public test server, the servo gun is a bit underpowered in base damage. We'll talk about that later. As far as how it performs in combat, it will recover your CHP while it's firing. It is fully automatic. You cannot use it while rolling, but either way, it's a pretty fun tool. I think people will be very big fans of this. And now, one thing I want to mention that's not actually mentioned in his perks at all is that this class is able to automatically gun strike without actually using your secondary animation whatsoever. So what that means is, when you get a parry on the Techmarine class, you will then get the opportunity to gunstrike an enemy. As long as your servo gun is not in action, you will be able to just fire it off for an automatic gunstrike. It will do less damage than your secondary would, because the servo gun does not take the damage of your secondary for a gunstrike into account, but it does take the version of the servo gun you've chosen. And what I mean by that is, if you take precision enhancement, you will do the most damage on your gun strikes on the servo gun, and then plasma and the standard one do the exact same amount. All of it is pretty low, but that's kind of like the trade-off for getting these automatic gun strikes. Now, while you are having your servo gun active, you will not be able to gun strike with it, but the servo gun isn't active for that long, and that's a pretty easy thing to work around. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here is his perk tree. So first up, we have Explosive Enfilade. After using equipment, your range damage increases by 15% for 10 seconds. This perk is an additive buff. It is pretty nice to have. I will say the equipment focus on the Techmarine feels pretty damn good to use, and it definitely has a pretty nice range focus, because the next perk I'll go into down here is called Methodical Destruction. Enemies damaged by equipment take 25% more damage for 10 seconds. The way this perk works is that it will apply a multiplicative damage buff to your ranged attacks versus enemies that are hit by your equipment, and an additive damage buff to your melee attacks. So this is like primarily for a ranged build, which is pretty nice and definitely fits that overall playstyle, because if you're taking melee, you're probably going to take the other perk up here, Arc Cleave. Damage from charged melee attacks increases by 25%. This perk is the exact same perk that the Bulwark and Assault have. Is just overcharge on the Techmarine here, and even though they just renamed it, it's the same effect. It's a multiplicative damage buff. It'll affect your power wave on your power axe, the shadow stab on your combat knife, the power rake on your power sword, and the heavy attacks of your brand new Omniscion axe. It is a very powerful perk option. This is also the first time we have ever had Arc Cleave with a combat knife, so pretty neat thing there. And the final perk in this row is probably the weakest in my opinion, Omniscion Axe Deflection. After a perfect parry or perfect block, you will take 25% less damage from range attacks for 5 seconds. You know, a 25% reduction to range attacks is pretty nice, because this class doesn't have any damage reduction outside of things like this, or the perk up here, Reinforced Position, or your Prestige perk tree, Defensive Stance, we'll get into later. But to be honest, the other perks up here, like Methodical Destruction, especially Arc Cleave, are just too valuable to give up. So I think they should probably buff this one up into like a proper damage reduction, in my opinion, because that would make it like a serious choice between these other two, which I think are just strictly better at the moment. Next perk I want to talk about here is Explosives Adept. Damage from equipment increases by 20%. This perk is pretty damn powerful. You know, if you want to go for the full equipment focus, you can take Methodical Destruction, you can take the perk up here, Explosives Adept, and you can also take the perk down here in your Prestige perk list, Blast Radius. You have an increased radius for your equipment damage. These all feel pretty fun to play with. I think players are going to be having a lot of fun with this combo, especially if you take the team perk Combat Squad Resupply that gives your entire team an additional equipment except for Melt-the-Bombs. And I think they did a pretty good job incorporating this equipment feel on the entire class, and the synergies are quite evident. Now, the next perk in this column here is called Push the Advantage. After a finisher, your melee weapon deals 20% more damage for 15 seconds. This perk is okay. It does have a pretty decent amount of a damage buff, but the big thing here is that unlike the perk Arc Cleave, the other two melee perks in this tree, like Push the Advantage and the perk over here, Counter Offensive Protocols, these are both additive buffs and not multiplicative, and because of that, their value is a little bit lower than this one, but they're still pretty decent. The final perk down here is called a Long Range Barrage. Range damage at ranges greater than 20 meters increases by 25%. This perk is really damn good. I actually think this perk, on top of things like the Oculus Bolt Carbine, is going to be one of the strongest options for this class, because the Oculus Bolt Carbine has a variant with a ×2 headshot multiplier, and because of that, your headshot damage goes up tremendously. And on top of your headshot damage, damage perks like Retaliation and Divine Might over here that give you a 10% damage buff, these will buff up the damage of your servo gun. Your servo gun will do more damage based on the base damage of your weapon, which is kind of silly. I kind of hope they change that, because for now, it makes it so your servo gun can definitely be held back by your primary. I don't think that's really a good thing for the class, but for now, it's the way it is. And your servo gun can also do headshot damage, though it does always aim for the body, which is kind of unfortunate the way it is. Now, this perk combined with perks like with weapons like the Oculus Bolt Carbine will have you doing a tremendous amount of range damage, especially if you stack it on top of things like Methodical Destruction and Explosive Enfilade. This is a really fun perk combo in the game, in my opinion, and Oculus Bolt Carbine is probably like a best in slot bolter option for like straight damage on your per shot for the bolters. And the only reason I would take other options like the grenade launcher and stuff like that is for the obvious reasons that you have a grenade, and the Plasma Incinerator overall I think is held back the most, because unfortunately the Techmarine does not have perks like Plasma Boost, which kind of carry this on Tactical. It also doesn't have all the other range damage buffs that are very easy to obtain that the Tactical does, but that's kind of an unfortunate oversight in my opinion. I think this one needs to be buffed though. Now, as far as our team perk selection, this is where it gets a little more unfortunate, because the first perk we have here is called Reinforced Position. All team members within 15 meters of an active Tarantula Sentry Gun take 25% less damage and deal 15% more damage. This buff is really nice. 15 meters is not too far away from your Sentry Gun, but it's also not too close. It is pretty easy to stay around your Sentry Gun while this is happening. The only reason this perk doesn't matter too much currently is because the Sentry Gun on its own is so ridiculously powerful that it does not matter if you have buffs around it at all, but I'm sure that will change in the official release, so it'll be a pretty fun little perk effect here. Now, the next perk here is actually dog shit. Battlefield Repairs. All team members fully regenerate their armor and gain 1 additional armor segment when using Medicae stims. This perk sucks. I don't know who came up with this one. We saw this leaked in the way back June leaks for the Siege mode of last year, and they haven't changed it at all since then. It's not that getting armor off a stim is a bad effect on its own, but compared to other team perk effects, this is just not good. Like, Medicae stims in Space Marine 2 are just not common enough to have a team perk completely built around them, and only getting armor off of this, that's not the worst effect ever, but it's definitely not going to come up that often, so I think this will be like the least picked team perk overall for this class, and they really should rework this one. Next one down here is Combat Squad Resupply. All team members gain 1 additional equipment except for Melt-the-Bombs. I mean, this one's pretty neat. It's definitely good for the Techmarine, but when we compare it to the other perk here, which is Secure Stockpile, equipment charge restored by 1 for all team members, cooldown of 60 seconds. This perk is just strictly better. I mean, this is 60-second Melt-the-Bombs for your entire team, and Melt-the-Bombs are by far the best equipment in the entire game, and for some reason they decided to exclude that here. Maybe it's because they were worried of synergies with the Secure Stockpile perk, but to be honest, it's just not remotely as good, but maybe they'll buff it or nerf Secure Stockpile, but I hope they do the former. Next perk here is Designated Target. Enemies hit by the servo gun take 15% more damage for 10 seconds. This is an additive damage buff for 10 seconds. It's pretty good. I think it's like the best in this whole tree right now, because the perk down here, Inexorable Salvo, while the servo gun is active, you don't lose control from heavy hits and you cannot be knocked back. This perk is okay. You know, no knockback in this game is a very strong effect. Unfortunately, your servo gun is not active that often, and when it is active, being knocked around doesn't matter that much anyways, so I hope they do take a look at this at some point because it's just not a very strong no knockback effect, and no knockback in general is a problem for this class. The final perk down here is Synergistic Arsenal. Servo gun recharge rate increases by 25% when you're near Tarantula Sentry Gun. This perk is also not that good. I mean, Tarantula Sentry Guns, they're fairly plentiful, but in the case of this perk, I mean, a 25% recharge rate versus just getting your bonus damage, I think bonus damage is best. So for now, I think this is like the overall best in slot in this column, but this one could be okay. Next perk here is Augmented Ammunition Feed. Servo gun recharges 15% faster. This is a pretty good effect, though I do think the one down here, Replenishing Salvo, killing or incapacitating an enemy with the servo gun restores with equipment, cooldown is 90 seconds, is obviously better, because this is a very easy perk effect to pull off. Even though it has a 90-second cooldown, this is much better than consecutive execution even, because one-shotting a Minoris and stuff like that will happen all the time on your servo gun, and getting equipment off cooldown is very easy with this. Now, the perk up here is called Augmented Tarantula. Tarantula Sentry Gun damage is increased by 25% and ammo increases by 50%. This sounds like it could be pretty strong. I mean, it might be strong in the official launch for the Techmarine, but like I said before, right now, this perk is not necessary whatsoever because the Techmarine's Tarantula Sentry Guns are so damn powerful on their own. So hopefully they take a look at that, but I do want this one to be pretty strong in the future, like the Sentry Gun builds. Now, something I want to mention about the Replenishing Salvo and next perk here, which is Fortifying Salvo, that gives you an armor segment every 30 seconds on killing or incapacitating an enemy with your servo gun. Neither of these perks will ever trigger off of your burn effect with Omnisci's Fury, so this one makes it so your servo gun sets enemies on fire. This absolutely carries the servo gun currently because the servo gun damage is just pathetic without this perk, and the way this perk works is that it instantaneously applies a burn effect on the first shot, and that's a pretty rare thing in Space Marine 2. Like, the Pyre Blaster is required to like hold down its trigger to actually get the burn effect on an enemy, but this one just has to shoot a single shot from like a single Q press or, you know, a Y press on your Xbox controller. So that's a pretty powerful effect, but it will not trigger these perks on the burn kills. Just keep that in mind. You have to actually kill them with the servo gun. Now, the perk up here is called Counter-Offensive Protocols. After using the servo gun, melee damage increases by 35% for 10 seconds. This is a pretty good perk. I don't think it's as good as this one because armor in Space Marine 2 is just so damn strong, but getting a 35% additive melee damage buff for just hitting one button with like no real downside, that's pretty strong, and a 10-second uptime is fairly long. Next perk here, Strategic Gun Strike. Servo gun only targets Majora's level or higher enemies and deals 20% more damage when the target is more than 20 meters away. I mean, this could say it deals 100% more damage when the target is more than 20 meters away, and it would still not be very good. The only reason I would ever take this is because precision enhancement is just absolutely garbage without this perk effect active, because otherwise it would just shoot Minoris, and this one only gets like 4 shots on the servo gun. But even then, it's just like this one still sucks regardless, so it doesn't matter too much. Now, for the signature perk tree with Decapitating Stratagem, killing or incapacitating Majora's level or higher enemies with the servo gun regenerates its ability charge by 100%. The cooldown is 90 seconds. This perk could be pretty cool. Unfortunately, it will only take effect on the ones that it's worst on, and what I mean by that is the standard servo gun bolter is just not that benefiting. Excuse me, it doesn't benefit that much from this perk effect because the cooldown is not that bad. Usually you turn it off before it runs out. Same thing with the plasma enhancement, but the precision enhancement would be, in theory, the best one for this perk here. But because this one doesn't actually have enough damage to kill any of the enemies it shoots at the moment, besides like zoanthropes, this perk effect pretty much never triggers on the one it would have the best synergy with, and you're just way better off taking burn. The next perk here is Lethal Perimeter. The servo gun marks a zone and automatically attacks enemies that enter it using 20% less energy per shot. This perk effect just sucks, okay? It might sound cool, like, oh, I put down a perimeter zone, but unfortunately, like I mentioned before, your servo gun does a donkey damage on its own without burn, so burn is pretty much mandatory, and using less energy per shot, which is, in theory, like, not the worst thing ever. It just does not matter. And also, the way this works is you put down, like, an Auspex zone, and they enter that zone, you keep shooting them. That's pretty neat. Unfortunately, it's garbage, but I hope they take, like, a look at that and make it so it's, like, a lower energy use or something like that. Now, as far as the prestige perks go, you know, chained headshots here, just the acuity perk on the tactical, very strong here, very strong there. Also very strong because this class has access to the Oculus Bolt Carbine, and the Oculus Bolt Carbine has a ton of headshot damage, so really good synergy there. Next perk here is Revive Surge. When the Techmarine revives a squad member, both gain 15% faster ability charge regeneration for 10 seconds. This perk sucks ass. This is a garbage perk. It should be completely reworked. You know, revived perks in Space Marine 2 in general are just not good, and this one is one of the worst, so hopefully they take a look at this in the future. Stim boost. Medicaid stims for 40% more health. This is pretty good. You know, it's just resilience on the tactical. Honestly, you should definitely take this because this class is very squishy. And next perk here is a volatile sentry. Sentry turret explosion damage increases by 40%. I mean, we have no idea how much the sentry gun explosion really is. Well, I've used it a couple times. But the big problem is that the sentry guns are so OP on the PTS, they never blow up to begin with. So kind of a useless perk, but I'm sure it'll be better in the official game. Next perk here is blast radius. Increase equipment damage radius by 15%. This is a really nice synergy with perks like Methodical Destruction because you hit more enemies with your blast radius, which is pretty nice. I like the equipment focus here, so definitely take a look at this one. And next perk here is Offensive Stance, which is scramble targeting. And the final perk here is Furious Gunstrike. After using a Gunstrike, melee damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds. Now, unfortunately in Space Marine 2, the Techmarine's gun strikes on the servo gun do not actually trigger this. I'm sure it's an oversight or a bug. It'll probably be fixed in the official launch. But for now, this will only trigger on normal gun strikes, and normal gun strikes are only obtained on the Techmarine when your servo gun is active. So very, very rarely will you ever get this perk to actually work. But I'm sure it's an accident because it's probably supposed to work on the servo gun. It doesn't really make sense if it wasn't because a 5-second uptime is just not that long at all. So I'm sure they're just made a mistake. Now, as far as the new Omniscient Axe is concerned, I think this is like the best setup for the heroic version and the fencing and balance versions. It's pretty fun to just rush through here, Perpetual Strength into the perk here, Armor Siphon. Killing a foe with the Omniscient Strike restores an armor segment, cooldown at 60 seconds. Moving here into the perk Perpetual Strength, then the perk Static Charge. Each foe hit during the Omniscient Rush increases damage by 10% within 40 seconds. Did I English that right? I mean, the description's wrong. So it says each foe hit during Omniscient Rush increases damage of 10% within 4 seconds. Clearly the translation did not go through on the PTS. Next perk here is Iron Rush. Incoming range damage is reduced by 50% while using the Omniscient Rush attack. This is pretty nice. I've heard this is bugged a bit, but I'm sure that'll be fixed in the official patch. Next perk here is Armored Strength. Up here into the perk Expose. Foes hit by the Omniscient Rush or Omniscient Strike take 15% increased damage for 5 seconds. This is nice to rush an enemy, immediately get that damage buff on them, activate your servo gun, do more damage to them, and just like shoot them in the face or follow up with melee attacks. Pretty nice synergy there. Then I go down here in Perpetual Strength, and then I grab the perk here, Energized. While charging or releasing Electric Discharge, you won't lose control from heavy hits and cannot be knocked back. And I also grab the perk here, Rapid Charge. Electric Discharge charges 40% faster. I think this gives you the best of everything you'd want on a rush build here, mainly because the perk down here, Executioner, is okay, but it works way better with the perk over here, Cleaving Strike. Light combo attacks this weapon, deal damage to nearby foes around the target, and like this perk is pretty damn powerful. Unfortunately, it will blow up barrels in your face if you are not careful, so keep that in mind. And the final perk here, Rapid Charge. Getting your discharges out faster is just super fucking useful on this weapon, so definitely grab this one. And currently, this perk, Mighty Blast, is bugged, and the other perks up here are not that bad. It's just that they don't give you a huge bonus compared to these, and there's not like a huge reason to go down this tree because they're pretty niche perks. Like this one's an armor restore with a 30% HP requirement, and this one has a 15-second cooldown for like one buff on one weapon attack, which is okay, but pretty gimmicky. Now, as far as like the balance and block versions are concerned, if you take block, I would just go down the bottom tree because you're going for all in on the cleaving strikes. You're going all in for things like supercharged follow-up. After discharge, your next light attack becomes a powerful sprint attack. You get the perpetual strength. You get to go for full damage. You can grab that expose up here if you want, or you could skip this or one of these perks down here and just go all the way into the rapid charge. I probably would take rapid charge over expose here, but you know, it really depends on how you want to set it up. But either way, I think the bottom tree definitely benefits off the block block Omniscient Axe more. And as far as the best melee weapon on this class currently, in my opinion, it's just the balanced power axe. You're probably like, what the fuck did you just say? Did you say balanced power axe is the best melee weapon on this class? Well, the thing is that because you have automatic servo gun strikes on this class and the arc cleave perk for 25% melee damage buffs that are multiplicative on your power wave, you can do more damage off of a power wave with a gun strike than you're doing off a single charge of a block axe, because they did buff up balanced weapons in this patch. So if we set it up this way and go perpetual strength into coup de grace into perpetual strength, and like build it for like the primary melee damage that we would on other classes up into the perks tactical retreat and power wave, you're doing like over 200 damage on a combo of a power wave into a gun strike, which is like over 70% of the HP of most Majors in the game, which is pretty intense, so definitely a great option, and probably the best option on the class, and if it's not this, it's definitely the Block Axe, and I really wouldn't take the fencing one, because the perk up here, Power Strike, 20% more damage on gun strikes is pretty good for classes like Assault that take their secondary into account, but on this class, it's just not that good, because your gun strike damage is just not that high in the servo gun ones, but if you want to, you definitely could, because I know some people like fencing, and as far as like the Power Sword is concerned, it's okay. The Power Sword's a Power Sword. It's an alright weapon. Definitely not like a top tier thing anymore, but it's okay. As far as the Power Gladius is concerned, with a 360% damage buff, this weapon on top of Arc Cleave, on top of all of your other melee damage buffs, yeah, you could hit like a truck on the combat knife with this thing. It's pretty damn intense, and the balanced knife may be a little off-putting to some people compared to the brand new fencing knife we have here that gives you the heroic perk effect in Knuckles. Riposte window is shorter, but each riposte deals damage to the attacker. But I would say the Power Gladius is still king, because getting damage on every parry with a shorter parry window, which is basically just a block window with a fencing effect, that's not terrible, but 360% damage buff is 360% damage buff. I think this weapon, the block and balanced power axes, and the Omniscient axe on the block and fencing versions, even the balanced one, which is pretty strong, are all going to be the best choices on here. The Power Sword being worse than slot, but still pretty decent. Now, as far as secondaries go, I do want to mention that the Inferno pistol has a weird interaction right now with the servo gun, that it will limit your gun strike range when you fire off a gun strike with your servo gun, because the Inferno pistol has a base range that is lower than all of the other gun strike options in the game, and that'll be taken into account for your servo gun. I'm pretty sure it's a bug at the moment, but I just want to make sure people are aware of that. But that's pretty much my opinion on the breakdown on the Techmarine. Hey guys, first regardsman here. I'm going to be talking about the brand new heroic weapons in Space Marine 2's patch 12.0 Techmarine update. Now, this is on the public test server, so some things may change. This is a first look at the 3 new heroic weapons we have, starting off with the Omniscient Axe. Now, we actually got a heroic version of this weapon. This one doesn't have an official name yet, but its stats are 13 strength, 9 speed, and 1 cleaving potential, and the perk option here is called Pointy End. The damage of the attack after Omniscient Rush is increased based on the time of the charge. So I have actually played around with this for quite a bit. The top tree works really well on this one. I did make like a whole breakdown of this perk tree a little while ago. But the big thing about this one is that you just go for almost all Omniscient Rush damage. Perks like Expose that give you bonus damage on people that are hit by your Omniscient Strikes and Omniscient Rush. It's actually a pretty powerful option. The fencing feels pretty decent, and overall, I think fencing is pretty beneficial for this class in general, and having parry options, because a lot of your gun strikes are just so free thanks to your servo gun that you can do them during things like dodge animations and stuff like that. Like you just fire off a shot very easily and not be worried about stopping your attacks. So being able to rush and gun strike is a pretty nice thing. Now, as far as the other variants of the Omniscient Axe go, the normal fencing one has like 3 clean potential over this one's 1 with an extra speed. I think this one is a strict upgrade to the other fencing option here, so this is one of the very few heroic weapons that I would say is just like a strictly better version of their relative to your counterpart for their respective defense type. Now, the next one we have here is the Combat Knife. This one's a little strange. We don't know what the name of this is called yet, but the Agile Strike perk is now what this one has. It is called Knuckles. Riposte window is shorter, but each riposte deals damage to the attacker. Now, I haven't tried this one out too much yet at all. It seems like the damage is okay from what I've heard and read online. I don't think it's going to be that strong of an option. I mean, Power Gladius is like one of the most ridiculously heavy-hitting weapons in all Space Marine 2 currently, so having Agile Strike be compared to this, there's really no competition. A 360% melee attack and damage buff is just better than getting some damage on your parries, because even if this one was like equivalent to Intimidating Aura on Bulwark, which would make it really good, I still think you're just better off taking the fat damage stacks of the Power Gladius. But having an option for players that want a fencing knife, even though it has 3 speed, that is something for you. But it's kind of funny that they gave a fencing weapon only 3+ speed, because 3 speed on a knife is actually lower than the block variant, and a lot of players already struggle with the block variant in general, and the fencing version has 9 on the relic tier counterpart, and guess what? The Power Gladius has a 7+ speed on it. So I think this one's just a far better option, even despite the balanced defense window here. But that damage buff is just too much to give up. But this one's still a pretty neat little effect, and honestly, it looks pretty cool. I haven't seen this one. I mean, it's a nice little like cleaver, basically. Now, the final thing we'll talk about, one of the most interesting weapons, is the new heroic heavy bolter. This doesn't have a name yet. It's just called Heavy Bolt Rifle Aux, and really all this weapon is a grenade launcher attached to your heavy bolt rifle. It is just the standard bolt rifle option for the grenade launcher. It is the exact same main launcher, it feels like. I have not tested the damage on this. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if the grenade damage of this was any different from this one outside like some of the perk tree options, but like the base damage I'm almost certain is the same. And the thing here is called UI weapon skill underscore heavy heroic B alt aux name. So yeah, we don't have this, but you can tell this is a public test server if you can't tell already. Now, as far as the perk tree options, I mean, it's the same as the other one where you just build for pure damage on this. And they did have a buff to the bolt rifle in this patch where now the bolt rifle has a 50% damage buff with crack and penetrator rounds. This will give you 50% more damage on body shots. I know it doesn't say it properly here, but that would probably make the grenades way better for tactical than classes like the Techmarine, but we'll see how that actually functions in the future. For now, I think this one is okay. The ammo reserves and magazine capacity are about the same as the scope variant, which I think is a little disappointing, and the stats are practically the same as well. So it seems they went for like the base stats compared to the other options here. I think the firepower one is still probably better. Grenades are pretty nice, but overall, I think it's neat. It also looks pretty cool. Like, you have the Inquisition symbol, but I don't think this one's going to make people go like, oh my god, I can't wait to pick that up. I think the big takeaway here would be the Omniscient Axe, and a big reason the Omniscient Axe is going to be popular, in my opinion, is that the Omniscient Axe will allow you to level up your Omniscient Axe when you are just trying to play the game for the first time on your Techmarine, because they did nerf the XP that you get off the hard siege mode. They also nerfed the XP to 0 on hard stratagems, so leveling up is going to take a little bit longer next patch, but if you buy the Omniscient Axe immediately on the heroic variant, you will be able to use this one in place of your standard issue one, even at like level 0, so just keep that in mind. It's a pretty good thing there. And you can also buy all these new heroic weapons right off the bat if you have maxed out accolades, because we only have 3 new heroic weapons this patch. Kind of unfortunate, but you know, we did get a brand new class, so it's kind of understandable. But as far as the other options go, I mean, you can see them in the store here, that we just got the Omniscient Axe heroic, the Combat Knife heroic, and the Heavy Bolt Rifle Auxiliary heroic, so not like the 6 we got in previous patches. And there are also 0 new heroic cosmetics to be seen at all, so that may be disappointing to some, but once again, we did get a brand new class this patch, and I think that makes up for the lack of heroics, at least this time around. There's also going to be another patch coming out pretty soon in Q1. So let me know what you guys think about the brand new heroic weapons in Space Marine 2 patch 12.0. Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and so I'll be going over the brand new pickup coming to Space Marine 2 with the Techmarine update. Yes, you heard correctly, that there is an all-new pickup item in this update. This is not an equipment like the Sanctified Wrath or Reliquary item we got in patch 11, but instead an all-new healing item called the Stim Shot. Now, I have played around with this item quite a bit on the public test server for patch 12, and I have to say that these things are very powerful, and in my opinion, much more useful than the previous equipment pickup we got with Sanctified Wrath Reliquary, and even potentially better than the standard Medicae Stim. So in this video, we're going to go over the Stim Shot, how you obtain them, their overall strengths and weaknesses, and how they actually function. The Stim Shot can be found throughout your operation, just like the Medicae Stims we've had in the game since launch, and when you pick one up, it will replace any Medicae Stims you currently have in your inventory, since they take up the same slot. And just like a Medicae Stim, you can only have 2 Stim Shots at any given time. They are also fairly rare, and in my experience, they are far less common than Medicae Stims are, and they are also currently unavailable in Siege Mode's requisition store. Though in Siege Mode, you should still be able to find them in on-map crates, and I do expect them to add them to Siege Mode eventually, because Saber does plan on updating the requisition terminal with things like Tarantula Sentry Guns for the Techmarine, so I imagine these are also on that list. So that is how you get your stims, but what the hell do they actually do? Well, stim shots, unlike Medicae stims, are not intended to be only an emergency heal, but also for offense versus incredibly dangerous encounters like boss spawns. Upon injecting yourself with a stim shot, unlike a Medicae stim, you will not instantly restore health, and instead you get a heal over time effect that restores a very small amount of HP, but more importantly, you will start to regain contested health as well until your entire health bar has maximum available contested health. This effect will last for around 25 seconds, and while your stim shot is active, you cannot lose contested health for any reason. It does not matter how much damage you take or how long you wait, your contested health simply will not fade. This is extremely powerful and in my opinion better than the current Medicae stims are in Space Marine 2. Being able to constantly heal for a period of time fits the gameplay loop very well and really helps out the most difficult encounters. So those are the major upsides of this new pickup, but what are the downsides? Well, you can't emergency heal quite as easily as you can with the Medicae stims, since stim shots will not restore you a substantial amount of HP on their own or remotely as fast, and you are still susceptible to getting damage nuked and one shot by strong enough enemies while your stim shot is active, since the healing capabilities of the item do not take effect immediately, as they are primarily intended to be used as an offensive healing item to get you through a tough battle rather than an emergency heal. But that being said, I still think they are the strongest of the two options currently, because in Space Marine 2 you naturally have a ramping damage resist below 25% health that generally prevents you from getting outright one shot, especially on sturdier classes like Bulwark and Heavy. So unless you are literally stunlocked, ping-ponged to death, or blown up instantly, the stim shot is usually the best option as a gradual heal, since if you're managing your HP properly, you're practically invincible while the stim is active for most content the game currently has. The only other major downside of this perk is that you are getting less value now out of perks like Resilience, which make your stims restore 40% more HP, since the actual healing of a stim shot on its own is really not that high. Though all that being said, I think this healing item is actually pretty well thought out from Saber, and it's a great addition to the current state of the game. I think most players will be a huge fan of this one. I really don't think this one needs any major changes before it goes live beyond some bug fixes, since it really fits pretty well into the current gameplay loop. But let me know what you guys think about this new healing item in Space Marine 2. Do you like it, or do you think it seems more like a gimmick? I am personally a huge fan, but I am curious to see the community reaction. Hey guys, first regardsman here, and so I'll be talking about the brand new customization packs for coming to Space Marine 2 and patch 12.0 for the Techmarine update. Now, we are here on the public test server. We have access to the Techmarine class, but we also have access to the brand new customization packs that are coming in the next patch. And these include the champion pack for the Raven Guard on the Assault, as we'll see here. Now, unfortunately, we cannot equip these, but you can see right here that we have the brand new Raven Guard champion skin. It looks a lot like the 8th and Shaw model on the tabletop that just came out, or the Chapter Master model, I should say. And I would say it looks pretty damn good. I think maybe the texture on the helmet's going to be a little disappointing to some, but overall, I think this is one of the best looking ones we've had so far. Unfortunately, you know, we don't have lightning claws in this game, and predominantly Raven Guard are known for using lightning claws in combat, but I can accept that limitation because these guys look pretty damn sick. And on top of this, we also have some options for the Sniper class and the Vanguard class by proxy to actually use for the Raven Guard. I'm going to show you here now, where if we go down the shoulder pads, there is a Raven Guard champion option here for the Phobos, and that's pretty damn cool because, again, Raven Guard are well known for stealth striking on assault with lightning claws, and they're also known for sniping and things like that out of stealth. So really cool they actually added in 2 options for this, and the best part of this is there's even a cape. So we can see here we have a Raven Guard champion. Now, let me put on the proper colors just so we have a better idea here. Okay, perfect. So here is the actual cape. I think this looks pretty damn good. I think people are going to be a huge fan of this because Raven Guard are surprisingly an underrated chapter, but in Space Marine 2's community, people are predominantly pretty huge fans of them, and I'm pretty happy they actually gave the Sniper an option to use this Raven Guard champion skin at all, because we weren't sure initially. Now, something else people want to know about is the Kakarodon's champion pack, or excuse me, the cosmetic pack, and that is also a pretty substantial addition. I think it's much better than the previous one we had the Salamanders, because we can see here we have the Kakarodon skins down here, right in here. So these are your shark boys. So you have all the decals for the pretty much just shark teeth all over this thing. It's a little bloody. They're definitely pretty hardcore on these. You can even see that reflected in the helmet we'll show in a second. That Kakarodons, they don't fuck around. That's kind of their whole thing. So the fact that their helmets here reflect that. It's like blood marks on this one as well. You also have a cleaner version if you prefer that. I know some people don't like having their characters look like they've been through hell because, you know, in Space Marine 2, your characters get bloody anyways, so having this might be a little redundant, but either way, I think both of these look really damn cool. I think helmets in Space Marine 2 in general are a very popular option for players because helmets are one of the most defining traits of your starters in the first place. Now, beyond the helmets and chestplate, we also have some shoulder pads for these as well, and I will show those here where we have this one, which I'm not like the biggest fan of this one. I kind of like the shark teeth, they're like sticking out of the sides. That does look pretty neat, but as far as the right shoulder is concerned, I think I might prefer this one a little bit, just because it's a little more mundane. You have the molecular bonded studs, and you can also mix and match this with the Raven Guard studs if you really want. As we can see down here, like if you want to use the Raven Guard champion, have the molecular bonds on your leg piece as well, you can do that, so that's a pretty neat thing. Now, one final thing I want to mention here is that the Assault Champion skin also comes with a skin for the Bolt Pistol. And we can see here that the Bolt Pistol skin is a suppressor one. This looks pretty amazing. You know, the Bolt Pistol's gone through a lot of buffs in this game as well, so using the Bolt Pistol is no longer trolling yourself. It's a pretty damn strong secondary, so having this option as a skin, there's actually a weapon to use it on pretty much, because previously in like patch 8 or like patch 9, you would have just never touched the Bolt Pistol, but since patch 11 and including this patch, it's been pretty decent, so that's a pretty cool option. Now, I also wanted to talk about the Techmarine customization here for a second, since I'm sure a lot of people have questions about this as well. So we have 5 outfits. I did talk about these previously in a different video a little bit, but overall, let's just go through the head selection. So the head selection is you have one unhelmeted option. This is the base option. Then you have the 3 helmets here, and you have a final unhelmeted option again. And then you can also have all the other helmet options from the new Heroic store and stuff like that if you want these, or the DLC packs, including the Kakarodones ones. So that's pretty damn cool to see. You also have access to the molecular... you will not have access to the molecular bonded studs from the Raven Guard Champion pack. A lot of the pieces of armor for this class are specific to him. He cannot take advantage of the other champion packs. That might change down the line, because this will be a feature they probably will add eventually, because I'll show you why before we get back into this, is that if we go into the Bulwark class, you'll be able to see that his new chest piece, he does have stuff like a Dark Angel's Cloak for this now. They add this back. There are a few other options like this. I'm not going to go through all of these here. I'll probably make like a gigantic video for all of these customization pieces for all the champion skins and stuff like that, which is coming in patch 12, but for now, just be aware some of these champion pieces you previously had have gotten far better. On top of that, you can also have a Blood Angels backpack now on the Bulwark here as well, so that's pretty cool to see. And as far as the Techmarine is concerned, the Techmarine armor is a little bit limited, but what is here is pretty damn cool. I mean, you have 4 chest pieces. They all look pretty decent. I'm a big fan of the AdMech symbol in general, so I kind of like these ones over the bigger, like, you know, more, what's it called? I kind of like these ones over the more bombastic ones like this, because this one's just like a little much in my opinion. Now, as far as color options go for these, you can color this any way you want. Like, you know, it has access to all the chapter stuff. This is like a big question, because predominantly the Techmarines are all red because they were trained by the Adeptus Mechanicus on Mars, and the only ones that aren't red are like Iron Hands, I think, and Deathwatch for the most part. So you can go and break that if you want, just have them be whatever the hell, you know, what you feel like doing. Crayola Marine, if you do want to do that. Now, as far as the other arm options are concerned, they're pretty limited as well. You have 4 options here. You don't have access to the Ordeals ones. You don't have access to the DLC ones. Same thing here with the other Grieve. You don't have access. You only have like the 4 from the base outfit. And then here on the backpack, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Mechadendrite arm options. And the Mechadendrite arm is used in executions quite a bit, including things outside the Omniscient Axe, which is pretty nice to see, because I wasn't sure if they're actually going to do that, because usually execution animations are something that are very difficult that Saber doesn't like to do a whole lot of, and it is nice that even weapons like the Power Axe will have access to the Mechadendrite in their animation. So keep that in mind in case you ever want to use those weapons. Now, as far as the other options are concerned for weapon customization, I do want to talk about the fact that they have made it so all of the heroic weapons now can have their skins put on their other tiers of weapons, like the relic tier. So now we can play the Xenophase Blade block version if you want to. Obviously, you don't get access to the heroic perk effect, but that's a pretty cool addition they did as well. So hopefully that satisfies quite a few players. That's pretty much all I have to say in this one, guys. There's going to be some more to go into here eventually. We will be getting the DLC heads. I can actually show those to you right now, but we don't have the voices yet, which is what we're really waiting for. But as far as the DLC heads are concerned, we have them right down here with our Blood Angels, Space Wolves, and Black Templar, and these all look pretty damn good in my opinion. And that's pretty much all there is for the new cosmetics here. And one last thing before I forget, we do actually know what the Heretic Astartes chapter is going to be for the Techmarine now, and it is in fact a red Corsair, like a lot of people expected. Pretty cool to see these guys in game. We did recently have the Maelstrom pack on the tabletop at the New Year's preview, and now we have red Corsairs in Space Marine 2 as well. You can see this in the actual armor set here. Let me just zoom in, and for people who are more curious, we have the really interesting looking Mechadendrite Dendrite arms, a nice like looking Mecha Dendrite cape basically. And yeah, I think this guy looks pretty amazing. They really went out of their way on the PvP mode for this, considering not that many people play this mode to begin with, but really nice that they actually add this in. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching. If you like content like this, subscribe for more, and take it easy. Bye.